There are two supplements that will increase your strength by 10%, and I would bet money that you don't know them. They're easily acquired, not harmful for you, very few side effects, if any at all, and it will increase your strength reliably every single time. Let's talk about what those are, but before we do, I'm going to tell you the 3 that you must take. Ethically, I feel like I have to repeat this every single time I make a supplement video because I love to talk about the fringes of performance, but you have to get the foundation right first. This is your creatine, non-negotiable, at least 5 grams a day. Your whey protein, practically getting your protein in 1 gram per pound of body weight, extremely important. And your pre-workout. When you need the extra motivation, you need the energy, this is research backed that getting that extra energy for your workouts is going to have you get better results. Those 3 are your foundations. If you're not taking those, ignore the rest of the video. If you are, keep watching. I will mention one that is overrated and you should not really take it with as much credit as people are saying right now. And this is supplements related to NAD+. If you are using this for performance related outcomes, the evidence is limited. I have a study here and we'll read it word for word. NR and NMN are commonly utilized NAD+ precursors that have been investigated. When supplemented, these compounds have been shown to be safe, well tolerated, and may boost the NAD+ metabolome. However, only limited data from select studies have found clinically relevant improvements to show physiological function after treatment with these NAD+ boosting supplements. Some studies have reported improvements in cardiovascular, metabolic, and physical function in groups with chronic disorders or those with reduced baseline function. In the full version of this study, it states before the conclusion here that essentially you increase NAD+ stores when they are declining and you will see improvements in function. But if they aren't declining, there's almost no point. It's not clinically been shown that there's really any purpose to this. They're great for anti-aging because NAD+ decreases disproportionately with age, but for performance, let's leave NAD+ off to the side. Now into the supplements that will increase your strength 10%, and I am not exaggerating. These are buffering substances, and there's 2 of them that will have this effect. Let's talk about why we need buffering first, and then we'll go on to the supplements themselves. When we do high intensity exercise beyond our aerobic capacity, the cost of this anaerobic work, or work in the absence of oxygen, is that we're going to release or create lactic acid. It's a byproduct of creating the energy. Lactic acid immediately dissociates into lactate and hydrogen ions. Those hydrogen ions will build up, and when they build up, it drops the pH inside the muscle. This creates a massive burning feeling. We can't really get this out because the pH of our blood is so tightly controlled. We don't want to dump hydrogen ion out of our muscle into our blood. If we were to dump these hydrogen ions into the bloodstream, it will denature enzymes, we will die. That just isn't a possibility. Now within the muscle, it then has to go through aerobic pathways and we repay the oxygen debt after we're done exercising. That's why after a really hard 30-second effort, your breath increases substantially after you finish because we need to repay that oxygen debt, clear out the anaerobic byproducts, hydrogen ion, and get ourselves back to baseline. The other thing that's really important to recognize is that hydrogen ion buildup is a direct inhibitor to muscular contraction. So if we can prevent hydrogen buildup, this will promote more muscular contraction. The first substance is beta-alanine. Now I know beta-alanine is in pretty much every pre-workout, but not to the dose that it's needed. And this isn't because supplement companies are trying to save a few bucks or maximize the profit, nothing like that. It's because if you take too much beta-alanine, you feel like an absolute crackhead and you'll be itching yourself more than you'll be training, particularly in small blood vessels, notably in your face. So the limit to not have too much side effect from beta-alanine is about 2 grams per dose, and most pre-workouts sit somewhere between 1.6 and 3. That's why sometimes you will get that crackhead itchy feeling. Personally, I love it. Not from crack, from beta-alanine. That 3 grams, still not enough. It's useful to take and clinically relevant to take 5 to 6 grams of beta-alanine per day. If you supplement 5 grams of beta-alanine outside your pre-workout, this will be substantially beneficial. This is because beta-alanine increases muscle carnitine. There are 2 components of carnitine. One of those is beta-alanine and the other is histidine. Beta-alanine is always the limiting factor here, so we increase beta-alanine, we increase muscle carnosine stores. Now, what does muscle carnosine do? Well, simply put, carnosine soaks up those hydrogen ions within the muscle. And this beta-alanine supplementation is not particularly relevant pre-workout. It just has to be taken chronically. And this will chronically elevate your muscle carnosine stores, just like if you take creatine chronically, it will elevate your creatine stores in your muscle. If we chronically elevate our beta-alanine, therefore our muscle carnosine stores, well, we will consistently have an increased ability to soak up hydrogen ions. Supplementing with 5 grams of beta-alanine for 6 weeks will result in a 60% increase in muscle carnosine stores on average. Now, what does this mean in terms of practical results? Well, it's a modest 2 to 3% improvement in anaerobic capacity. This is a very good start, and we can't downplay 2 to 3%, especially if I'm trying to win a world title. This is massive. But if you're just an average person, you think 10% is amazing, 2 to 3%, it's probably a little bit of whatever. Let me tell you about the second supplement. This is sodium bicarb. Now, sodium bicarb, when it gets into the bloodstream, is sodium on one hand and bicarbonate ion on the other hand. That bicarbonate ion will increase the pH of your blood from 7.4 to 7.5 when taken in adequate doses. This dose is 0.3 grams per kilogram of body weight. Now, whilst the blood pH going from 7.4 to 7.5 doesn't really seem that important, that is going to increase your ability to pull hydrogen ion from the muscle out into the blood by 25%. If we can have a 25% increase in hydrogen ion leaving the muscle, that is a substantial benefit to your overall anaerobic capacity. Unlike beta-alanine, this is not a chronic take it every day for a long period of time solution. This is a pre-workout 1 to 2 hours before you start training solution. And at 0.3 grams per kilo of body weight, I'm looking at about 45 grams of sodium bicarb for me to have adequate buffer. This stays in the bloodstream, it's excreted, and doesn't last a long time. So we have to stack the sodium bicarb and the beta-alanine. Sodium bicarb in terms of acute function, beta-alanine in terms of chronic function. Now, sodium bicarb itself, we're talking a 2 to 5% increase. If we stack these two together, on the low end, both of them give 2%. On the high end, beta-alanine gives 3% and sodium bicarb gives 5%. That means together, we're going to experience a 4 to an 8% increase in overall anaerobic capacity. Now, anaerobic capacity is not the primary determinant of strength, although it is helpful. Now, I said these two would increase your strength by 10%, and let's talk about how. If you have a 4 to 8%, let's just call it 6% for argument's sake, a 6% increase in anaerobic capacity, the results of that would be 11 reps instead of 10 on a max rep effort, a reduction of 2 to 5 seconds on longer loading medleys. You can do this math through a variety of things, but let's say you did a strength block or a hypertrophy block, or depending on where your training's at, let's just say you're doing sets of 10. For the exact same effort, instead of doing sets of 10, you're doing sets of 11 across the board. This 1 rep change week over week is going to compound on itself. And when it compounds on itself, you're going to reap the rewards of that increased work. Over time, this is going to continue to benefit you. And then when you go to competition day, or when you go to a 1 rep max, not only are you benefiting from having a increased buffering capacity in a dramatic way, but you're also benefiting from your increased capacity to train for all of those weeks leading up to competition. Let's bring it back to how this is actually going to increase your strength by 10%. Now, let's say over the course of 12 months, you increased your strength by 3% per month. That's a really good rate of improvement, but it's nothing crazy if you're in your first couple of years of training. If you increase 3% a month, your total improvement over the course of the year is going to be 42%. Now, let's say you had a one-time boost of 6% that you carried throughout the year, and you started 6% further ahead. That interest is going to compound. That improvement is going to continue to benefit you over time, to the tune of a 51% improvement over the course of those 12 months. That's a 9% increase in strength. Sorry for rounding errors, but a 9% increase in strength over 12 months for the exact same level of effort put in, pretty damn good. And let's say in that first year, it's a 9% increase that you wouldn't have had before, and in the next year, it's a 6% increase over what you would have had before, and then it's a 3% increase over what you had before in year number 3. We take the 9%, the 6%, and the 3% improvements over those years over top of what you already would have improved. And over the course of 3 years, you're going to be 19% further ahead than you would have been without these two simple supplements. Look, A 6% improvement doesn't really seem like it would get your rocks off or get you particularly excited, but 6% better every single workout and getting that 6% benefit every single time, it doesn't take a finance wizard to know that that's going to get you places very, very quickly that you otherwise wouldn't be. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. I think this is a fantastic thing for anyone to do. Relatively little downside as well, even financial, relatively little downside. Thank you guys very much for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And until tomorrow, lift heavy and be kind.